Meetings General Membership Meeting. It's going to be a beautiful day, and thank you for coming to participate in our membership meeting. It's a meeting we annually have, and this is the opportunity for you to hear from the board, especially from Gene, our park president. He normally gives an annual report. We're going to have a little bit different procedure this morning. Rather than have Gene go through a long report, he's going to begin by introducing some staff, and then we're going to run it a little bit like we do the face-to-face meetings. So, but before we get to that, we want to give the opportunity for our board members to make some comments. I think on my behalf, this is probably going to be my last meeting as a member of the board, and I would just like to say that this past year has been a great year, not only financially for the park, but I think over these last 2 years we've completed 2 FEMA projects, and not only are they CCs, but they're also a place of shelter during a time of severe weather. And we were quite surprised after we completed those 2 that Salem Township came back to us and said, would you have an interest in another FEMA grant? And when they explained to us what they were thinking about, it would be another shelter, and we lost the Golden Onion because it was a structure that was about ready to come down, and it was no longer safe. And I'm quite sure that in the past we've had members that have gone there during the threat of a tornado or severe winds, and so to have another facility to meet that emergency and to have FEMA contribute 75% of the cost is it's very, very difficult to turn that down. And so the board decided that we would give the go-ahead and pursue that with FEMA. And of course, as you know, we were successful, and now that it's in the works, and probably by the time we celebrate our 50th anniversary, that facility will be open. It will be an adult activity center. So I know a lot of people have said, well, is that going to include another pool? And the answer to that is no, as Jane explained at our meeting last night. That is totally a separate issue. So, I just want to express my appreciation. We have 2 board members that their term is up, and that is Chad Ostrom and Dennis King. I want to thank them for their work and support on the board, and of course they are both standing for re-election. So that would remind you all to make sure, if you haven't voted yet by absentee ballot, that you want to do that yet this afternoon or soon after this meeting. It goes from 10 to 2 o'clock. So at this time, I'm going to give individual board members the opportunity to make any comments. So who would like to begin? Anybody want to have some comments to make?
Yeah, good morning. I would just like to add to Don's comments that first and foremost, you have an excellent staff. The department heads and the administration make all of us look a lot smarter than we really are. They work diligently to keep the place going, and you have as members a lot to be proud of. This is a great park with a lot of amenities at a very reasonable price. It's a great value, and as we look forward to adding amenities and figuring out how to pay for that stuff for everybody, I just want to say that we take your comments and your thoughts seriously and try to make them a reality. You can only do so much. You have to work within the parameters that are established, but this is a great place, great people, and we're glad to be a part of it, so thank you.
I guess I want to reiterate what Rick said is, I could repeat everything he said and be accurate, but I also want to say thank you to the people that do take the time to stop me when they see me out and about with their concerns and give me an opportunity to talk to them directly and bring things back to the board. The only time that causes a problem is when I'm gone too long and my wife wants to know where the heck I've been. Other than that, this is a great facility, and I'm glad to have been able to serve.
Well, I could go on and just continue to say what they've all said, because it is a fantastic place here, and Rick is right. Gene and our staff makes our job so much more easier to do, I've been totally enjoyed your support and for the first year, and look forward to the next two. I continue to urge you to contact me through emails or stop, as Jim says, stop by and see me. But thank you for your vote of confidence, and thank you, Gene and the staff and the board for working together to make us a better place. Thank you.
And Brian Elling here. This is my first year on the board as well, and it's been a pleasure to serve with this board and to be a voice of the members. And as we go around the park, it's a pleasure to get stopped, to get questions asked, and to have friendly as well as heated conversations about issues, and that's the way we all learn together. And I will say that my wife has gotten kind of used to it when she continues on walking, but our dog still has not gotten to the point of accepting me stopping and having a conversation along the road. So bear with my little heel biter if he comes after you. But at the end of the day, it's been a pleasure to serve with the board. It's been a pleasure to serve with the staff that is just simply amazing, and to come alongside them this past year has been truly a pleasure. And then, of course, with Gene and his announcement of his retirement. And I don't know if I'm stealing anyone's thunder, but we have a date coming up, if you haven't already heard, of August 31st, an open house for Gene at the Pavilion on the 31st. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, from 10 to noon. So make sure we show up for that as well. And thank you, Gene, for all you've done for the park. So it's again been a pleasure.
Hi. Thanks for everybody's support. It's been a great year. I've enjoyed being on the board. And I guess most of all, I'd like to thank Don for being the chairman. I think he's done an admirable job. And for the time that Gene has served us, I think he's done a wonderful job. Thank you.
I'm Dennis King, and I'm in Phase 3, which is God Country. And I was elected 3 years ago to the board, and I thank everybody who did support me at that time. And I'm also running again, and hope that I can get the same support, because I feel that it's necessary to carry on the reputation and the great place that we have here at Sandy Pines. I got myself involved with a couple of committees. One was the safety and security, and we looked into a lot of things that deal with safety in our park, and was able to implement some programs, and some are still in the works. And I like to continue to look at what's going on in the park. I was involved with the FEMA project in Phase 3. I don't know why, but because I was there, I guess, in Phase 3. But there are two wonderful shelters. They're there for emergency, and I was thrilled to hear that FEMA also gave us another grant for a two-story building that they've never built before, and that's going to house at least 1,100 of our members in the event that there is a tornado or a severe storm up to a Category 5. And then I'm also looking to find out about our lake, which is our biggest asset, and to maintain the lake's quality so that it will be with us for a long, long time. Again, I thank you for your support.
Hi, I'm Ellen Carpenter. I'm also from God's Country in Phase 3. And I wanted to thank everyone for allowing me to serve on this board. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of great people. I think we should all be thankful, as Gene is leaving, for things he's turned around and things he's done, and I wish him the best in his retirement. I also want to thank the staff because they are just truly amazing. They are very patient, and they have a lot of great ideas, and, you know, we should all take a minute to thank them for their hard work. As well as, like Brian, I have an ankle biter, and he doesn't necessarily love being stopped to chat, but he does settle down. He also has road rage, so if you're not going real fast and I'm behind you, he's going to bark at you. So make sure you get out there and vote, and we're looking forward to a great year.
Wow, how can I add to all of that? I agree, ditto. It's been my pleasure also to serve on the board, and for being given the honor of being the treasurer, and I've worked a lot with Kimberly, and she's done just an amazing job. Jean also has had almost seven great years at this park, and I'm just very, very thankful for him and the work he's done, and the things he has turned around in this park and the financial position that we're in today. I think he's just got to be commended for doing a fantastic job. And I want to thank all the board members too for being so just working together this year and showing up for, you know, being there, working together alongside each other. It's been my pleasure.
Okay, now we're up to where we get the park president's report. So, Gene, we're going to turn it over to you.
As Don said, we're going to change it up a little bit this year. People started falling asleep during my readings in the last 7 years, and my wife told me that. So we're going to try and make it a little more interactive. If you've never been to a face-to-face meeting, we started those about, I think it was the first year I was here. And we started out by going to each phase and meeting with each group of people from that phase. And I really enjoyed that. It gave me an opportunity to find the personality within each phase, and there is a personality. So, but as the years went by, the pavilion worked out much better for consistency of weather and the ability to hear each other. And so we moved to the pavilion a couple years ago, and that's been working well. So, but before I begin, I'd like to I got to get a few things out of the way based on the reason we have this meeting. And then I'd like to open it up to questions from the floor. And we're going to ask the staff. I'll be introducing them. They will come up. And so you can ask any of them a question as well. Not all departments are here because they're at work or this is their day off. But we've got a fair amount of them here. So I'll introduce those shortly. But first I want to thank you and welcome you as members to this annual meeting. I want to thank the staff that is here for being here. Josh Janowiak is on the video back there. Josh is our communications director, but he's also on the video. Dennis King is taking care of the sound system this morning. He's doing dual purpose as well, so we thank both of you guys. I want to begin by saying that the condition, the state of our park is strong. The financial resources, the human resources, and the capital assets or the structures are also in a great position. Some of them have been recently renovated. Some of them are due to be renovated. But overall, we are in a very good position. We have, as you've heard a couple of folks up here say, exceptional managers, and we've got a number of those exceptional managers here today. I'd like to start out by saying, I'd like to introduce Jack. Jack Smith is manager of Park and Garden. Jack, come on up. We're going to have you stand up here.
And then we have Sue Flowers, who is our manager of member services. If you've not met Sue, you should meet her. Thank you, Sue, for what you do. And then a manager of our director of recreation is Nikki Hoagland. Nikki, come on up. Nikki has about 40 or 50 people under her, and she is the one in charge of all the summer programming. So, and then Kimberly Williams is our CFO. So if you've got any questions about your dues or how we can keep them so low, you can talk to her. Then we have Ralph Smith. You all love the inspector, and so Ralph has been he was out for a while. He's back, and he is making bridges between the DEQ campground inspections and our office, and his office, I should say. We're really appreciative of that. And then we have Gary Peters. He is the manager of the Lake Monterey Golf Course, and we welcome him here. Then over on the other end over there, if you guys want to come up, it's Keith Garblink is our Director of Security, and Chris Monley, who is our Deputy Director of Security. Folks, these are the people that make you successful. Josh, I know you can't be there and here at the same time, but as part of the accomplishments for 2019, communications has been a big part of it. And Josh has really renovated the way we communicate, restructured and improved in a number of areas. This year, he restructured the proprietary cable channels, and it's a work in process, but his focus is to improve the content so that we have more viewership, so that we can attract more advertisers on those channels. We have multiple communication outlets and platforms. You now are used to seeing the e-news. You get rave alerts. We have website upgrades. And this year we were able to get an additional cell tower provider, AT&T. Does anybody here have AT&T? Is the signal stronger now? Iffy. Okay. All right. But we do have AT&T. So, but evidently it's not affecting a big part of the park. We also had, and Steve is not here, but Keith is, and Chris. Those guys are largely responsible for the improvement and the renovation of the security camera system, and if you have any questions about those, or we'll let them speak to it just a minute. But that has been a huge improvement in the park. The finalization of the guest campsite renovations has been completed. Kelly Blackman from our office brought this to my attention the first year I was here. And we've gone 5 years in renovating 65 sites. And through that, we've seen our revenue increase significantly to a point where the camping revenue now holds down our dues by about $200 per member. So we're really pleased with where that program has gone, and we expect it to continue. The second year of the golf cart rental program that Jack is overseeing with Dale Yoder, that's gone well. We're still a little bit below our expectations, but we're above where we anticipated we would be even a year ago. So that improves every year, and it will take some time. But that also is another new department that has helped to keep the cost down on our dues, as well as providing an additional layer of security. The retail center, if you've not been there, you really need to get over there. Park and Garden moved over there, and and you can see the improvements in the building and in the layout, and it shows up, for me, it shows up on the bottom line. I see the numbers that are improved, and our revenue per square foot is up significantly from where it was. So we're glad you're doing well there, Jack, and we encourage all of you folks to please get over there. Our cash reserve, accumulation of cash reserves continues. We've been blessed these last 7 years to increase our cash significantly. That allows us to do some things like this FEMA project, the current one, and it allows us to do things like the FEMA project that we did before in Phase 3. That one we transferred, or the board transferred $1.1 million out of operational reserves, or like our savings account, and we had to transfer it to capital. So that paid for that. The way the park did business for 46 years previous to that was if there was a capital asset or an amenity, it created a need for an assessment. This was done with no assessment, and this new one, which is a larger facility and a much more expensive one, is also being done without an assessment. So the estimate here is that the financial burden on just this project, I'm sorry, on both projects, will be about $7 million at a cost of $3.2 million to the park, or about $4,900 in principal and interest to each membership. So I want to thank Steve DeArmond again, who's not here, but he and Jim Pitch from the Salem Township were successful on both of the applications to those FEMA projects. And I want to thank the board for allowing us to apply, and then for providing a transfer of those funds for a project as these. We will, you can't imagine, or maybe you can, what could happen in this park with a tornado going through it. The emergency effect of these buildings alone is worth the money, and we're really pleased that these buildings are being built here. I mentioned the other day in the face-to-face meeting that these buildings are designed for 100 years. So when the park turns 150 years old, those buildings will probably still be standing long after we are. So it's really quite something. Public safety, again, I'll let Keith and Chris speak to that, but we're continuing to make progress in that area toward PA 330. I'll let him explain PA 330 a little bit to you. But Keith has really stepped the skill sets in that department up another level with his hiring, and we are really pleased to have Keith on board, and as well as the staff that he has underneath him. Maintenance, Ben is not here today, but Ben, his department does a great job on keeping this park neat and clean. I see one guy right there, Nels. Nels Baum was very instrumental in keeping the flowers pretty and keeping the weeds out and planting trees. So thank you, Nels. Sales, our camping sales, as I mentioned earlier, has increased almost every year in the last 7 years, and we're really pleased with that program. We also have a camping, I don't know if you know this, a guest camping host. Some of you may be a host. What that is an individual that's a member here. They go to each campsite each weekend. They're assigned certain campsites. They go to meet the guests to make sure they have everything they need, they know where everything is, and that's been a great program. And the people that do this are passionate. The members that are volunteering, they're not volunteering, but they're close to it, to do this, really enjoy it, and they're very good at it. And you know, as a company, these are people who are largely unseen and underestimated for their value. So if you hear of any of them, or if you want their names, let me know. We'll get that to you. I've got, that's about all I think I have to say. I've got other things that I can say, but I would like to know what you folks would like to know about. If you've always wanted to know something, but we're afraid to ask, this would be the time. And because we've got all the board and a lot of the staff. So if you've got something, go up to that microphone in the middle there and let us know what you got.
How many campsites are filled each weekend? What is our percentage, do you know? Average?
Well, we have 50 campsites, 10 cabins, 5 park model trailers. And I believe that the weekends are pretty much full. They're about 100%. During the Monday to Wednesday is the hard sell. Monday to Thursday maybe the hard sell, but that's getting better. But if there's gains in revenue, it will be during that time period that we're working on or be focusing on. So the trailers are great. We expect to get the money back on the trailers we buy in about 18 months. So they really are a good source of cash for us.
Are the trailers designated in the park where they are?
Yeah, they're on, if you have a Sandy Pines map, they're color-coded on there where the trailers are. And we also have, there's a color-coded designation for seasonals. We have 12 seasonal sites at this time, and then the rest of them are open to reservation, so, thank you.
More of a comment than a question, but combined. One of the things is Parking Garden, do they brief the people when they rent the golf carts as far as rules and regulations? More specifically, multiple times I've seen people with open alcohol, and I tell them, oh, well, we didn't know. You know, so they're driving. Just last night there was a woman carrying a bottle of beer, you know. So it's more of just an FYI, you know.
When we take them out every time they get a cart, whether they've rented in years past or not, I require my staff to go out with them. They go over the rules. We have a sheet we hand out. Alcohol is on there that we talk to them. That's one of the things they get the cart taken away for if they're caught with it. An underage driver, under 18 years of age. They're not supposed to be driving on the rental carts because of our insurance, and that sheet is handed out to them, along with our phone numbers for any problems that they have with the carts or the safety department they can call. But that's gone over with every member. But let me tell you, they don't always listen. So I had one the other day. We talked about switches on the carts. When if they hit the switch wrong, it'll go into neutral and the cart won't run. I've had in the last 2 days 3 carts call me and say the cart's batteries went dead. Time I got to the cart, I said, did you flip the switch down? And we flipped the switch and it runs. So it's one of those things. We try as best we can to get them to know the rules.
We do have substantial amounts of open alcohol on carts, and we enforce as much of that as we can. Most of you folks have been in the park for quite some time, and you've probably seen a good number of carts with, say, a Solo Cup as an example, and perhaps had some suspicions as to what the contents of the Solo Cup were. There's a fine line for us between stopping every cart that we suspect may have something other than a non-alcoholic beverage in a cart. If it's overt, we certainly stop them, and we enforce the rule. In some cases, there's discretion. We do run into people that are not intoxicated, that are here and for whatever reason weren't aware of the rule regarding alcohol off-site. If they're cooperative, and it can be turned into an informative, here's the rule regarding this, then a warning would be issued. So, but it's something we've stepped up enforcement on considerably within the past probably 2 years, particularly with regards to operating under the influence. We have a big emphasis on that. We take it serious. I have multiple staff members that are trained in standardized field sobriety testing. We have preliminary breath testers that are available to the staff. And we have typically a couple incidents a month of somebody that's operating under the influence of alcohol. Another thing we've done to discourage that is there's a new rule, not really new, it goes back to last year now, and it prescribes additional penalties for operating with a high blood alcohol content. And by high, it's 0.18. So the state of Michigan has what's called the super drunk law, which starts at a 0.17. And the way the state of Michigan rule works is you're presumed guilty of operating under the influence with a BAC of a 0.08 or greater. You're typically going to be offered a plea deal if it's a first offense. If your blood alcohol content is 0.17 or greater, then the penalties are enhanced. Ours largely mimics that, except we go 1/10 further or 1/100th further, which is a 0.18. So, are there any other questions I can answer regarding that?
All right, any other questions on anything? We're looking to fill some void here, otherwise we got to go home. We don't talk about boat steaks here. That's a swear word. The boat steak is, in fact, I have that listed on my challenges yet to be met. The boat steak management program is a fiasco, and Sue can speak to that because a lot of people speak to her.
Oh, where do we begin? Most people, it's just a matter of awareness. One thing I've worked really hard to do, in the off-season this past season, we did a new page about boat steaks. If you've not been on the website to look at that, but basically explaining what a boat steak is. I mean, most people go out, they see a little piece of wood and maybe somebody has painted a number on it and they think that's a boat steak. And it's not. A boat stake is a measured position on the water. That piece of wood is simply a mooring post, and it doesn't designate anything unless we know it's exactly in the right spot. So just kind of beginning to clarify what a boat stake really is, that it has to be measured by GPS, and unless you honestly have had Ralph, the inspector, or a previous inspector out there to measure, maybe you have a dock agreement with your stake neighbor, you've had that measured, put in, exactly where it is. Just the first step we wanted to take was creating some of the misinformation about what exactly a boat stake is. Honestly, most people are very kind. They know the waiting list is 5 to 8 years. We finished 2014 placements this year. We're about halfway through the folks who signed up in 2015. So we're working through it. Ralph has been very helpful to me in making assignments, but it takes a little time. We have to make an offer to that next person on the list to see if they're interested in that stake. If they say, nope, we're good, we move on, we take them off the list, and it's a process. It takes about 2 weeks per assignment. And then those folks have to register a boat, and it's just bing, bing, bing. We stay by the rules, but we can't control the drivers of the boats. So when it comes to people thinking that's their boat stake and they're pulling in that spot, don't hesitate to just ask. Grab the MC number, kindly come up. I'll work with public safety. We'll figure out what the misinformation is, where they're supposed to be, and fix it. It's kind of as simple as that. Does anyone have a specific question about that? Don't hesitate to call. Monday through Saturday.
We have some, I'm sorry. Yes.
Can't hear.
You got to go over here, Bob. All right, go ahead.
I have a question about the FEMA building. Can I bring that up now or not?
Sure.
Okay. I just heard here that we were contacted by the county to put this building up. Is that correct?
The township.
They contacted us?
Yes,
Okay,
Salem Township.
So it is not an emergency building.
Yes.
If we were contacted, how could we claim it as an emergency building? This building, we had a building there, 2 years ago that was voted down by the public, by us.
The reason it can be, there are two reasons under the bylaws that allow the board to go ahead with this plan.
Mm-hmm.
One was that if it's required by the federal government, which this is, we are required to, if we make an application and we are approved, then we're required to pay a certain portion of that funding. Secondly, it has to be of an emergent situation. So the reason we're putting the buildings up are for emergencies, and so that is determined by the board as well. They deem it to be an emergency building, but we can use it for other purposes as we do the CCs as well. So those are the two factors within the bylaw that the board looks at when they make the decision to go forward. Back in 2017 was I just brought the original request to the board if they would allow us to pursue. That was then. Through that period of time, that was the first step. The second step then is to request funding, and that was done last night at the board meeting.
I guess I don't understand the emergency part. Last time we've had where we were required to shelter, I mean, none of the places we had were nearly full. Remember, I mean, what, 2 people there maybe? So the emergency, yeah, I still don't understand. If we were contacted by them to build it, the only way we could fund it because you're limited to 2.5%. So the only way we could fund this is to change it from being asked to put a building up to declaring an emergency, and I think that's wrong. I think the board made a decision for over $1 million, and it's not something that we wanted, or we needed, I should say, because our shelters now are not near at capacity during those storms.
I will lend the microphone to any of the board to respond to that, but I can tell you that the 2.5% only applies when the other two requirements that I mentioned. So,
I understand that.
So the 2.5% is something that you mentioned, but that's for something altogether different.
And to get around that, you declared an emergency, and I think that was wrong.
I don't think this is my opinion. My opinion is that it was no intent to get around anything.
Oh, I disagree.
It was open on the first time, and it was open this time. Does anybody up here want to speak to that?
You also tried to limit the 2.5%.
I would just say that when you say we didn't want it, I don't know who we is. That may be you and your spouse or you and your neighbor. The board clearly.
Oh, that was funny.
Well, the board clearly wanted it. That's why we voted 9-0 to approve it for the benefit of the membership as an emergency building, not an emergency to build it.
Right.
It's going to be for an emergency use. And if we use it one time to save one life of me or any of my family or any other member, then it's worth every penny.
Oh, I agree.
And it's worth a hell of a lot more than a pool or anything else.
Whoa.
So
Excuse me.
that's just the way it is.
Excuse me. I don't need that kind of language.
Well, I'm just telling you.
No, you
We
gotta
hear this
tell
and
me
everybody
correctly.
comes up with this and it's nonstop about everybody trying to do secret squirrel stuff, and it's simply not the case. This has been on the docket for over a year. Everybody is in agreement. We heard you, we understand you, you have a right to your opinion, but you don't have a right to just keep going on and on and on because you don't like the answer.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm asked, my question was, how can you do that? Okay, now.
We explained it, and then we got a legal opinion, again, we're not lawyers, to operate within our boundaries. And because you don't like it, doesn't mean it's illegal.
Well, I didn't like it because I did not think it was legal. Now, if you follow me, I don't know if I'm saying
understand, like you said, we can agree to disagree.
Well, I'm 100%.
But, I mean, you don't like the answer. I mean, it's being built, it's an asset to the park, it's a $5 million investment
Yeah.
that we're getting at a very reasonable price. There's no better way to invest in the safety of our members. We don't do this stuff for our benefit. We're all members too. We do it for the entire community in its whole, not what's good for me personally. What's good for the collective group of people that come here with their families and friends.
Yep. Yep.
One side note to that Kimberly just mentioned to me was the reason the original request came through Salem Township is because they are required to provide rescue and emergency services here. And if something ever came through the park here like a tornado, they would have to call multiple departments. So this was also a benefit to the township and the people of Salem Township. So we're really pleased, and we should be grateful for the opportunity to have this coming into Sandy Pines. We have a lot of people here. So thank you for the question, though. Yes, sir.
A couple years ago, we passed a capital improvement assessment, and there was some talk about a pool being built or tentatively being built in Phase 2. And I am just curious, what is on the planning board for a pool, either to replace the Onion or possibly a new pool in Phase 2 or any other phase in the park?
Sure. Good question. The pool in Phase 2 was on the docket for this year. We had a $200,000 estimate on it. As we got pricing for it, it became apparent that it was going to be more like $600,000. So it had to be reprioritized because the original reason was for safety, so that we didn't have as many kids crossing the street for swimming lessons into Phase 3, seeing we lost the indoor pool. So we decided to look at using that, if we were going to spend that kind of money, to go to look for a tunnel or bridge for safe crossing over here, and we're currently working on that. But on the docket, again, it's one of the things that are left undone, but it's high on the priority list, is to go back. We have a void of pool space. So we would like to get another one up in, get one up in the Phase 2 area, because there is room for it, and we just have to dedicate the funds to it. I think part of the other reason is that we want to get the hard numbers on the bids for the project on the North Shore. We got a pretty good, they came very close the last time on the estimates, so we're assuming that that's going to happen this time. But again, it's prioritizing the available funds without asking for assessments. The indoor pool, that the board has been discussing a lot in the last little bit. And if you look at the plans, in fact, the blueprints, there's a set of blueprints for that building, and there's a site plan on top, on there. It shows where an indoor pool building will be. I am very confident that you're going to see an indoor pool. I expect. Does any of you guys want to speak to that?
As Gina said, the last few months, that's been a big topic of discussion amongst all of us, and we all agree that that's an area that we need to address, and we are going to address. What we'd like to do is work on it over the off-season and start making preparations for presentations to the members. We want to get some surveys out, see exactly what you want or what you think we need. And then based on that, put a plan together and make a presentation. And there's some different ways it can be done, but we're going to try to make it available for the members to give a choice. For example, if we spread it out and decide we can wait 4 years, we as a group could put more money towards that. However, if the majority says no, we want to do it now, then of course an assessment will be made, and it'll be a little bit higher than waiting 2 or 3 more years. But before we start getting into that and talking all about it, we want to get all the ducks in a row and prepare you with a good plan so that you can make an educated decision on where we go.
We had the indoor pool at the Golden Onion for over 40 years, and it's an amenity that most of us really enjoyed. And it almost seems like the attitude of the board is, we lost the Onion, and you really don't have any plans to replace it. You didn't have any committee to study it. And I'm rather disappointed in the actions of the board, why we haven't put something together. Now here you're talking about maybe 4 years. Does that mean we're going to be without a pool for 7 years? I think it's poor on your part as the board when I think the members definitely want a pool. But the last vote we had, you tried to tie the pool and the assessment together rather than saying, do the members at Sandy Pines want a pool and are they willing to pay for it? And I think we would.
Okay, and maybe I misspoke again. Maybe I didn't say it clear enough. this board definitely wants an indoor pool. There's not one of us that doesn't think we need it. We need to get back something that we had before because it's an important amenity. However, you just mentioned the way it was presented last time. There's a majority that doesn't think that we worded it properly, and you didn't fully understand that. What this board wants to do and the staff wants to do is make sure we have all the ducks in a row so it's clear, so that when we present it to you, you can make a decision one way or another, and we want to give you options. I said the option could be for up to 4 years if you wanted to pay less money, or we could put more money towards it. Or if the majority wants the pool now, then we'll make plans to do it now. But we want to present you with a detailed plan, just like we did with the FEMA building, and let you make that decision. It's not that we're trying to hide, it's not that we're trying to run away, it's just that we want to make sure that this time when we make that presentation, there's no doubt about what can be done and how we can do it, and you tell us what you want.
Now I know in building an indoor pool, we can have a real wide variety of costs, anything from $500,000 up to $5 million, depending on what you want to put in that building. But have you done any tentative cost studies as to what the cost might be, as far as, I'm talking about replacing the pool. When I say that, I don't mean replacing the onion, I'm replacing an indoor pool.
Yeah, at the request of the board, I did put some estimates together based on historical data that we've got from our engineers, as well as extrapolating on some things from the Phase 2. So I've given them those numbers, along with when you get into that kind of structure, you're going to have operational costs associated with that they might not be bearing now. So they have that information, and it's only as an estimated budget. So depending on how the survey comes back, those numbers may go up or down. But they have requested some more the detail of that, and I think the survey is coming up. But speaking of surveys, we did a survey. Our long-range planning did a survey, I believe in 2015 or 16. With regard to one of the issues was the pool. And at that time, there was about 1,100, if I remember correctly, I looked it up not that long ago, about 1,100 people that took the survey. 40% were in favor of a new indoor pool. The balance were not. So at that time, the Dauber was down a little bit, so there wasn't a whole lot done for a while. So that's why, and then in the meantime, the thing had to come down. So now, I think there might be a different appetite for the indoor pool. So I think the board has heard that, they realize it, and they're working toward it. So now it's just a matter of the process. So, yeah.
Well, it's just that we have a pool for over 4 years, and it was really enjoyed by everybody. And then when it goes down, it seems like there was no plans to replace it. It was dead in the water. There wasn't even a committee, not even an ad hoc committee. That's a disappointment that I've had in the past few boards, that they've just ignored the situation for about 3 years.
Well, to speak to ignoring the situation, the last 2 years we had something on the ballot and it was voted down both times. This year we didn't bring anything to the ballot because we didn't have anybody bringing anything to us until late in the year. So it's not that we don't want it, and we're finding that there's a lot of interest in this, but the thing is we've been listening to the people, and what they want is what it's going to cost, what it's going to look like, and something to look at. And in the past, we didn't really provide enough detail on it. So we're, to speak to what Kelly was saying, we're trying to get this right. We want, if you're going to make a decision on this, and it's going to cost us some money to get an engineering on this and get prints made up and all that. That does not come free. So we're going to try and do it the right way so that when you look at this, you can see what it is you are going to vote on, or what it is you're going to get if you decide you want it, and go from there. But when it's been voted down twice, bringing it back again this year just didn't make sense. I mean, that's what you do with the school millage. Bring it back till you get the vote, and it wasn't, and people were unhappy because they didn't know what they were voting on. So we're trying to make sure that the next time you know exactly what it is you are voting for or against.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Esther, I just talked with you the other
Hi, Esther,
the other
yes, I
day.
remember you.
Thank you for all
I
you've done.
remember you as being nice.
And thank you. I just want to say thank you to you and thank you to all the workers here. I think this place has just really gotten wonderful through the years, and thank you very much for all your work. But my question is, on this building, no pool, what are we looking forward to using it for? I mean, what all will be in that building?
Yeah, well, I would encourage you to come up here to this front bench. There's a set of plans up there, and I'll
Okay.
gladly show you through it. But
Okay.
there's 2 floors. The bottom floor is going to be used mainly for board games. There'll be, the library will be down there, or there'll be some floor games available down there, I mean. And the library will be there. Maybe 1 or 2 meeting rooms for like committees or some of the card playing groups that we have, or the gaming groups. Upstairs, I think there's 4, actually, I think there's 4 on the lower floor, if I remember right. The upper floor, there's going to be a new board room up there. And then there will also be a large meeting room for these type of gatherings. For weddings, it will hold 250 people around round tables. There'll be a warming kitchen in there. And there will be some audio-visual equipment around the outside so that there can be presentations made to those who are attending. There's a deck on both ends of it, and outside on the beach side there will be a unisex restroom. So.
Now, is that going to be open to use? Like, I mean, could we use the library like with a card now?
Yeah.
But everything else will be locked.
It'll be card access.
Okay.
more than
Thank
likely.
you.
Yep,
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you, Esther.
I know my question is not going to be very popular. Has anyone given any thought to the fact that some of our young people that are getting licenses to drive golf carts are not very safe and raising that age? I live on a corner by CC in Phase 5. I have seen some hair-raising things on that corner alone. I don't think the age that they're giving the licenses, that the young people are adult enough to make good decisions. That's my opinion. My second question is, in the No Wake area, are there areas for tie-up for paddle boats?
With respect to your first question, you saw Chris and I kind of exchanged a look when you brought that up. We've had that discussion.
Good.
I'm going to be a little bit careful about what I say. I would agree with you that in some cases, allowing a 13-year-old to operate a cart without adult supervision is a potential safety risk. I would agree with that. Having said that, and this is the discussion that Chris and I had just recently, as far as hard data to back up how many crashes are we seeing with what age groups, what percent of those crashes are what we would call personal injury accidents as opposed to property damage accidents and so forth. We have several incidents a year. We had a substantial one just recently. Ironically, that person was not, I don't believe that driver was, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that was an 18-year-old that was driving that cart, correct? Okay. We investigate numerous complaints for driving, and we do take those seriously, and we will take action if we're seeing any type of a pattern. I would encourage everybody in the park, if you see inappropriate driving, to report it to us with a cart number, some notes and so forth as to the color of the cart, the time of day, and what specifically you saw. and we will investigate those things, because my attitude, and this is what I expressed to some of these younger drivers in the park, driving this cart in the park is a privilege, and we can rescind it immediately. We just did that just recently. We had 3 complaints on one person. He's 13 years of age. First tried to work with the parents a little bit. This is inappropriate conduct. You can't drive a cart or act in this fashion. Hopefully it gets addressed as a parental issue. 2 more complaints. He's completely banned from operating a cart. So to be real candid, if I wasn't worried about the backlash, I might bring that up. All right? However, having said that, it's a tradition in the park, and we see it every single day in our main station, where a parent is bringing a person in, and my son or daughter just turned 12 or 13. At 12, they can operate if they pass the test with with an adult present. But it's a big thing for these kids. It's a big thing for the parents, and for the negative that's out there, I'm not seeing a lot of hard data that's supporting personal injury crashes or an inordinate amount of crashes, and a part of that is us doing our job to make sure we investigate the calls that we do get and hold those kids accountable for the driving like we do everyone else. I would definitely be worried about the reaction of the kids and the parents, because it's such a big event. They come in and there's hugs and everybody's happy. Here you go, here's your card.
The crashes aren't the only thing that's of concern. It's their personal injury. When there's more than one on the cart, young people, it's exponentially worse.
I agree with you, and I will say that every year, Gene and I have had this discussion. Do we dodge some bullets out here? We do. We have seen some crashes that it was almost amazing that there wasn't a really substantial closed head injury or spinal cord injury.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, with respect to your boat stake question, let me restate the question, make sure I got it. You wondered if there's boat stakes where you could tie up in no wake zones?
Yeah, for paddle boats, for kayaks, someplace where maybe kayaks, I know they can have at the property anyway, but us with paddle boats, like putting it at the launch, because there's too many speed boats, that you can't hardly get out with the paddle boat. So you see a lot of empty areas around the Chapel, where, why can't there be a few stakes for paddle boats available?
You would,
Doesn't take up much room.
yeah, to answer the question, I'm going to call on Sue here, but to my knowledge, there are open boat stakes probably in the area you're talking about, but you can't park a paddle boat there without a boat stake, so.
Exactly. Most of you probably know, maybe some of you do not. In order to hold a boat stake at Sandy Pines, if you have one, you have to keep a boat registered on file within the parameters of what the handbook says. Open boats have to be 20 feet or under. Pontoons are supposed to be 24 feet or under. But just because someone has a registration, we have it on file, it's good till 2022, whether or not they ever put their boat in the water is their decision. So we do have folks that maybe they have a kayak registered to hold that boat stake. They've gone to Secretary of State, taken their lunch and a good book and sat for 3 hours in order to get that registration. Which I see some heads going, yeah, exactly. So if you ever put that kayak in the water, it's your decision, but you are holding that stake with a registered watercraft. That's what we look at. So some of the open boat stakes I get questioned about a lot. I'm able to look it up. I'm not going to disclose personal information to you, but I can say, yes, there is a boat registered holding that stake. Whether or not there's a boat on it is the member's prerogative.
I have a question to follow up on that. How many boat stakes are there in the park currently?
I look at them every day, but I don't remember the count. Yeah.
How many?
1221.
So as a part of that, I always wonder too, because this topic comes up a lot, what if there was 1,221 boats on all those stakes? It might actually be, we don't have a huge lake here, so it might be to the park's benefit. It may be to the park's benefit sometimes that people are registering kayaks or paddle boats or not putting a boat in the water at the stake, because if a lake this size had 1,200 boats in the water at any given time, and even a third or a quarter of those boats were out operating at any given time, that's a recipe for disaster. So it might be a blessing in disguise that people actually do that.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, Kenton McCloppenberg. Back to the FEMA building. First of all, my concern is not that whether we build a building or don't build a building. I like the idea. I would vote yes. Wasn't given the opportunity to vote yes. It never came to a vote. Two reasons it sounds like. One, we're required. That's a little bit circular. We asked the government to give us money. They required us to spend money. If we don't spend money, I'm curious what happens. If we didn't put the money up, what happens? Is that a federal legal obligation? Is that just we don't get our money from the federal grant?
If we do not comply with FEMA with respect to our portion of the funding, it would be pulled. So you
So the
can
requirement
always
was
choose
only
not
to maintain the funding from
You
the
can
other
always
side.
choose not to take it.
Yeah. So that is a very, very small requirement from the federal government on Sandy Pines.
I wouldn't say so, because they got a 75 cent over on a dollar.
Yeah, but they save money if we don't put ours up.
No, they're going to spend it. They have X amount of dollars that they're going to
Yeah,
spend.
they're just not gonna spend it here, I
Whether
guess.
Sandy Pines gets it or not depends on the
Yeah.
quality of our application and the ability to pay our portion.
So if we had that, as I understand it, last night the board also said that this was an emergency delegation of funds.
Correct.
If we only need one, we took two. I'm curious from, I guess, any one of the board members, when the discussion of this becoming an emergency took place between any two board members or board member and staff.
Well, as I stated in the beginning, this was so far a two-step program. One was just to request the board for the permission to pursue application. Step two was when we had all the documentation, all the bid documents ready to go. Now we have to pull the trigger to say we're going to fund it or we're going to back away. So that was last night, and their decision
I know the
last
process.
night.
I
Their decision
understand
last
it.
night was either to go ahead and take the money by giving some money, or to let it go.
Yeah,
So
but
that
they had a
was
choice
that
to
in itself
use-
is an emergency situation. But also,
that was the
the
emergency that it
reason
came
that's
up
being
last night.
built is for emergencies.
I'm curious, I guess I'd like one of the board members, any of them, when the discussion of using the emergency clause came up amongst the board, unless you know.
I think as Gene indicated earlier, this process started a year ago. I guess we certainly didn't think at that time that there was an immediate emergency, but when you're offered up to $2.5 million and you have to make a match of 25% of the total cost, it doesn't become a very difficult decision on behalf of the board, because we're basically replacing a building that we lost. So it was not a difficult decision for the board to make that. If you look at the two CCs we got in phase 3, and then you add this one, we're getting about $7 million in assets, and it's we only have to come up with 25%. So
100% support.
So long term, it's probably a pretty good decision to make.
Yeah, I guess I'm not questioning the decision you guys made as far as whether to move the money. I guess my question is, it became an emergency, and I hadn't heard anyone discuss the emergency nature of it in the year prior, and that's why I'm wondering when that discussion took place in the board.
The building, again, is for emergency, and you understand that. When we entered into the process to see if we qualified or they were going to help fund it, it came back, and then at that point in time, we had to make a decision whether we were going to fund it or not fund it, and it didn't allow us, we felt, as a board, it didn't allow us an adequate number of time to ask the membership if they wanted to do it. Because by doing that, we all felt that the grant would be pulled and it would go somewhere else. We did not want to take the opportunity to lose that chance to get another building over there to replace the Onion and be available for other amenities for this park. So based on that short period of time that we had to make a decision, to that as a whole, that's an emergency for us. Do we make that decision now or do we take the chance? So we decided, in our minds, that was an emergency situation. Make the decision now or no.
Again, I don't disagree with the decision. I guess I'm curious, I'm still curious when that happened.
Kenton, hold it. Hold it a second. The other thing, it is for emergencies. So your definition of an emergency, you just want to play semantics and you want to fight
I
on
don't
boarding.
have any problem.
Kenton?
I know you guys are allowed to say it's an emergency. I'm not disagreeing with you saying it's an emergency. I'm simply asking when that
Okay,
occurred.
then we're moving on to the next topic. Thank you. You can sit down.
You're not going to answer that.
I think that's been answered a few times, and we're getting quite a line behind you, so we want to move on from,
No answer.
to someone else, so please step aside. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Dan from Phase 4, and my question is about, if I understand right, the new FEMA building is only going to have one unisex bathroom in the back? Is
Just
that
on the outside.
Okay. Is there restrooms in the inside?
There's restrooms on the inside
Okay.
too, yeah.
Because that was my concern.
Upstairs and downstairs.
Okay, because we have, the beach right now has no restrooms, and I'm concerned where
Right.
everybody's using the restroom. And I was wondering, until it gets built, is it possible to
Yeah.
get some portable restrooms out there just
Yeah.
for the use of?
And the reason there's probably not as many restrooms as you'd like to see overall is that the next step is the indoor pool, which will also be a CC, because we'll need to have showers in there, to be in the indoor pool, and there'll be restrooms like we have in our other CCs. So that more relief is on the way, let's put it that way.
Now, is it possible to get some portable ones until this process is done?
Yeah.
To get a...
Have you ever
some
stood by
immediate
one of
relief?
those in a 90-degree day?
It's better than not having one of them.
Yeah, I
in
know,
90
I
days.
know. I agree.
So is that possible to get those?
Yeah, it is. It won't for a couple of years because now it'll be a construction project, construction site. So we may be able to move something a little closer down, like by the ropes course in that area. We could probably put some, yeah.
Because that would be greatly appreciated.
Yep.
Some immediate relief.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendall, Phase 6, and we are brand new this summer to Sandy Pines. So we are super excited to be here, and I have 2 questions that I hope are really easy. One, we were super excited to get on the boat, drive over around the lake, and go have ice cream at the Dairy Dip. And when we went to pull up, we realized that we really didn't know legally where we could park our boat. Is there the possibility of maybe having 2 or 3 boat stakes there that are designated tie-up spots for the Dairy Dip? Is number 1. And then number 2, I was also so excited that my kids were going to get to do a lot of things with Kids Club, with Parks and Rec, and make some lifetime friends here. And what we've discovered is a lot of us are Thursday through Sundays or weekenders. We have a lot of working moms now too, and Kids Club is a Monday through Thursday activity. In the future, do you think there's a possibility of having weekend Kids Club?
Okay. I got to go to both ends of the spectrum here. I'll give it to your first question to Keith.
I've had that question a couple times, ma'am, about people, we have a boat and we want to stop and get ice cream. Is there any way that we can do it, or are we violating any rules? So if you picture the pavilion and there's a swim area there and there's 3 buoys out there, after that last buoy, there is some space on the beach that you're not entering a swim area and you're not interfering with anybody else's boat placement or the ability to take their boat out. So that's how I've answered that, is as long as you don't enter the swim area and as long as you're not interfering with another person's ability to get their boat out of their spot or into their spot, by all means. And there typically are spaces there that you can pull up. There's not a stake, but you can pull up and you can beach your boat, and that's pretty much hard packed sand right there. Pull your boat up, go grab your ice cream, your refreshments. You're not violating any rules.
But for a lot of newbies, and there are a lot of newbies here, we're trying to follow the rules, and it's not clear cut anywhere. I mean, would it be that difficult to put in 2 stakes that say 30-minute dairy dip parking to pull your boat up to?
I'd almost look at that as, do we want to add a rule and add more problems with, okay, this person's been in this spot for 31 minutes, or there's only 2 boat stakes out here, and I've been waiting for, we really haven't had any issues with it, with the folks that are doing that. The only time anybody's ever questioned me on it is, can we actually pull our boat up here on the sand? Absolutely, by all means, go enjoy your ice cream. Just make sure you're not in the swim area, you're not interfering with somebody else's boat operation. All right?
Thank you.
Okay.
2 things. Those spaces that he's talking about are very, very narrow. And number 2, just this week, someone came in and said, somebody's been there a long time.
And it's hard to tell because there's the docks and then there are several stakes there. So it's
Again,
like, well,
you're looking at mooring
and
posts, you're not looking at stakes. So it could, they could be 10-foot boat stakes, which again is that measured position on the water. They could be a 20-foot boat stake divided by 2. So again, the space is very narrow, and what he said, run, get your ice cream, get back on your boat and enjoy your ice cream on the water.
There might be a long line.
All right, Willie.
Thank you, Sue and Keith. Nikki, you want to speak to the Kids Club?
In the past, it was Tuesday through Friday. This year, we transitioned it to Monday through Thursday. We have not ever offered Kids Club on the weekend just because we have a variety of other activities we have. Like there's dodgeball in the afternoon, or just some of those staff members do other activities on the weekends, especially with some of our featured events, whether it's Family Fun Day or Color Run. So that really takes our entire staff. So we haven't ever offered that. It's something I can look at. I can't give you a full answer that we would offer that on the weekends. It's usually been a weekday thing, and then they shift to either working out at lifeguarding or those other bigger activities, because all of the events run through our department, and we staff those, whether it's a drive-in movie or some of the Christmas stuff that we just had, wagon rides and stuff. So I will definitely look at that and see if it's an option. We haven't ever done it in the past, but I do agree that we do have weekenders too. I could imagine, though, that if we did, it's something that might overfill that room. It tends to be kind of like a babysitting thing, and then you guys get to go do what you like to do for a little bit, which is great. I don't know that if we were to open it up, how big it would get and if we would even be able to staff it, because right now we have at least 4 people in there during the week staffing it, and it just becomes a bigger budget issue, too, that I have to look at to offer it 7 days a week is a budget thing too. But I will definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you. And I understand 7 days a week would be a bit extreme. But with the number of weekenders that we have here with children now, I think it would be great if we looked at a shift in that too. So maybe not Monday through Thursday, but maybe it's Tuesday through Saturday, so that those kids get at least 1 day a week for an opportunity to come and do Kids Club.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take 1 or 2 more questions. Then I'd like to have Gary and Ralph, everybody wants to, and Kimberly, everybody wants to talk about money and golf and inspections. So we want to give them a chance too. Yes, sir.
All right, Gene. Last week and at the face-to-face meeting, you said Keith was certified. Can you explain what that means?
I'll let Keith explain all the certifications he has. There is a number of them.
Are you talking about MCOL certification, Larry?
I'm just talking about, Gene said you were certified, and I just wanted to know what that meant.
Do you remember the context?
Yeah, I can speak to, he's got a number of certifications that he's gone through in this last off-season. But when I guess what I was thinking of, Larry, or what I was alluding to, was that he is fully certified to be fully armed. And he has gone through all of the classes. He has gone through a psychological study, as has Chris, as has 2 other officers. However, they have yet to be certified fully, but Keith was the first to complete it, and he is also certified to be a certified instructor in a number of those things. So we're really pleased that he's dedicated his time and effort and his talent to this situation and to the opportunities we have in that department for going all the way to PA 330, which I hope we can do within the next 18 months.
So you're saying he's not totally certified yet, so he is not able to be authorized to carry a weapon on duty?
He is authorized to carry, yes.
Has he been authorized, or will he soon be authorized to carry a weapon on duty?
He's carrying one right now.
Thank you.
So your answer is yes. All right, one last one here.
I just actually got a couple quick ones. One is back in regard to the boat stake. For older people, I think there was a couple out there that people that don't have a boat anymore, they own a lakefront property. If they don't register a boat, it sounds like they lose their stake. So when they go to sell their property in a few more years or whatever, they're selling a property, lakefront property that does not have a boat stake with it. Is there a way that they could change that? I know everybody wants more boats on the lake, but change it to people with a lakefront property. They can pay their fee to keep that stake without having a boat on it.
That would require a change in rules. And what we have now is, of course, I'm sure you're aware that people have stakes or have a spot on the sand that have a boat registered to it, which is the rule, but the boat never sees the water. So speaking to that, I don't see that changing, but the whole boat stake program really needs to have a hard look and not just talk, but some action to change things, to make it easier for folks like Sue and Ralph to manage the program properly. The boat stake, there's a misperception now that people are paying for a boat stake. They don't. They pay for a water sticker. We don't charge anything for boat stakes. So that would be a new wrinkle, is to charge something for just having a spot on sand. That being said, if that scenario happens, and I've seen it happen on a few occasions, where someone let their boat stake go that had a place on the water, and then subsequently attempted to sell their place, the boat stake will be gone, and Sue can verify this. The boat stake will be gone within hours if you got one on the water that's in a decent place. So if you have a lot, I can remember one in the low K, in low numbers. I believe they were asking $69,000, and they had inadvertently let their boat stake go, and I think they wound up getting somewhere in the mid to upper 40s for it. So the boat stakes are worth a lot of money to your resale ability, but whether you're on the water or back off the water, they add value to it. So that whole program really is a management nightmare, and we hope to try and eliminate or mitigate a lot of these issues that you're concerned with as well. So.
Yeah, and the other was, I know you had the results for the testing on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get results on that?
I did, yeah. We just got them last week, met with our staff to go over it. We did a personal review of them, and then we met corporately to do a review. We are now contacting the folks that do. We had a third party do the survey and watershed assessment. And now we're bringing it to the folks that do our work here on the lake at Professional Lake Management. We sent them the report. Going to ask for their opinion of it, and then get together with probably our staff, and before that, we're going to have the Restorative Lake Sciences come in. They're the ones that did the report, and talk to us after we get the summary from Professional Lake Management. We're going to go over what Restorative Lake Sciences is recommending to us, and then try and make a plan, a long-range plan,
for the health of the lake and the fishery. I don't recall every detail of it, but I can tell you that one of the details that was striking to me was that most lakes have a watershed. In other words, where the water flows into it from 2 to 3 times the size of the lake. Our lake is, our watershed is 10 times the size of the lake. And basically from Hopkins all the way down here, we get everything that flows this way, and it ends here in our lake and then subsequently dumps up into the river. So we have some unique challenges, I would say. And I don't want to be accused of, again, of blaming farmers, but farmers have changed their ways of farming their properties. It used to be they would farm and leave 20 feet on either side of a line fence. Now they're farming right up to it. They're irrigating, and there's different insecticides, pesticides, herbicides that are being washed this way, and as well as the people around the lake. We have our own members that are on the water, that are using fertilizers that are high in phosphorus, high in nitrogen. So all those things as part of education that will have to happen, and I think that's what we're going to find as one of the areas that we're going to have to pay attention to, is to come up with an education program for the members first, and then also while trying to mitigate what we can from what's coming into the lake that we don't have control of. The lake also lays mainly north to south, so another fact that struck me was the fetch, which is the winds that create waves, have the ability on this lake to create waves from 1.5 feet to 2.5 feet at times. And they've got records on the damage or the erosion that's caused by little fingers that stick out from that straight north to south. So if you got a little finger sticking out, chances are that that's going to get knocked off by high water and wind. Boat traffic. The lake is really under a lot of pressure from boat traffic, wave action coming from all boats, and I know that there's been a couple of classes of boats that have been an issue and have been talked about, but generally, based on this report, it's all boats with a motor on, and they create, especially in high water conditions like we've had in the last number of years, they can create erosion. So the more details will come out in the report, and we'll have Josh post that report as soon as we have a good detail to say, here's the report, here's what we're going to do out of it. So I think that's kind of the plan right now. So.
Great, thanks, G.
Thank you. I want to give the mic over to Gary a minute and have him talk about the golf course. We haven't talked about that much.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but I guess I got to talk about it after all. Thanks for everybody coming. The golf course this year, with the weather we've had, it's been a trying spring. So we pretty much we had a cold spring, a lot of rain. The numbers were reasonable compared to last year. Not my big gain I get every year, but I'm comfortable with that with the weather we had. We've had a lot of irrigation issues. What I mean is we pump so much sand to the river, the well is going in, it's already in. So we're not pumping sand anymore, but the sprinkler heads, they're all plastic nozzles, so they get wore out. So a lot of, back early July when the well drug was there, he cut some hydraulic lines. We couldn't fix it till he got out of the way. So we were about 2 days away from getting the water turned back on, and we had some hot spots. We've since replaced those nozzles. We've had hot weather probably for the last 3 weeks. It's taken care of the problem. A good fairway explained would be like number 3. It's in full sun. We got these super big heads. They don't even make them anymore. They shoot out so far, the first 50 feet doesn't get much water. So replace the back of that with an aftermarket brass nozzle. So that's taking care of that. We've had a few new events this year. I did a couples invitational tomorrow. We filled that up. Karaoke we've canceled due to lack of, just quick history. The senior rec committee used to pay for the DJ. 2 years after that, a year after that, I paid for it, which is fine. A year after that, the music industry wants me to pay royalties. Yes, and it's like, who gets the money? Because they don't know what music you're playing. But anyways, I had to pay them. So after looking at it, we might bring it back in a couple years. The biggest problem I have is the building's too small to fund. My initial costs are just too high now. And my beer prices are not what a bar gets. So as for right now, we'll bring it back in a couple years, retry it. Long term, I've been harping on the board, and maybe down the road when the 10-year thing is paid off, we can add on the building where we can seat 80 people for golf outings and for karaoke and other events. The wine pairing went really well this year. The kids program that Larry and a bunch of other people helped is growing every year. I have talked to the First Tee program about coming out. I'm not getting a lot of response out of them. They really want inner city. They prefer inner city to promote youth golf, but I'm not going to stop till I get some kind of an answer. What's interesting this year, a lot more kids, a lot more ladies and young ladies playing golf at the golf course. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but it's coming from inside the park. Public play on weekends is up. So we're doing good in every area. I'm just not getting the usual 6-7% growth that we have in the past. Staffing's been good. It's just been a crazy year. We started out slow. Was quite interested. We maintained it. I am started last Wednesday to push more golf. We have a senior special for public play, $18. You bring a foursome per person. That includes a lunch, hot dog, pop, and chips on Wednesdays. Obviously, as of now, the golf course starts to slow down, so I'll be pushing some more stuff again in September. Clothing is doing well. Other than that, it's kind of the same old. I'm getting a company coming out next week. Our tee boxes get beat up pretty bad. A lot of our tees there's trees right 10 foot from them. When you change the sprinkler head up, you're digging using an axe to get to the bottom of the sprinkler head 18 inches down. So I got a guy coming out, cutting all the roots. It'd be a process about every 5 years. It's cheaper to contract it out than to buy the machine. The machine's about $15,000. So for me to spend $1,800 every 5 years, it's cheaper to do it that way. He will be out next week. And other than that, it's been a pretty good year with the weather we had. Any questions?
Thank you again, Gary. Financially, he didn't touch on that much, but when Gary came, there was 3 loans on their balance sheet. One was for about $700,000. Another one was just under $300,000. Another one was $45,000, in that range. At the end of this year, the $45,000 and the $300,000 loan will likely be paid off. So what we'll be left with is the last loan, which is the loan that all the money's coming back to Sandy Pines, because Sandy Pines loaned all the money to the golf course. But so we're in a sense we're paying ourselves back. But with some of the projects that you've been made aware of today, i.e. the indoor pool and some of the other things that we're doing, we're much better off having that cash paid from that loan as opposed to having the paper. So we're diligently attempting to pay that loan down as aggressively as we can while maintaining a good cash balance at the bank. Ralph, you want to say anything about what you're doing? And
just a couple things. Basically, for me, I just want to thank everybody for giving me a warm welcome coming back for the 3rd time. Some people have asked me how crazy am I, and I say, well, my main thing is I really like the park, and when the job was available and I was coming back to Michigan from Florida again, I wanted to come back to the job. So a couple things to touch on that people are unaware of is, one is the hottest topic I get all year long, and everybody's going to hear about it time and time again, is your lot cleanups. They ask me, can I get a warning? Can I get a warning? No, the warning is, it's in our rule book that June 10th is your lot line cleanup. if I give everybody a warning after that deadline, I'm gonna be going back and spinning my head all year long trying to make sure it's done. So I hate to say the quickest way to get to them is when they get that first $100 fine, they realize, I better clean my lot. Do I like doing it? No, I hate doing it. But we have to do it if we want to keep the park looking the best that we can make it look. So that's one of the hottest topics I've got. Second is, just please make sure you pull your permits for jobs that you have going. If you're not sure if you need a permit, get hold of me, and I'll let you know if you need one or if it doesn't require a permit. If it doesn't require a permit, you know, get your job done and enjoy your time here at Sandy Pines. The other thing that we did do when I got back here in March, Gene let me know that we did order a new GPS unit for our boat stakes. So now when I'm out, when someone says, hey, can you go find my boat stake, I can tell you once I'm finally done and got it staked, we should be able to have the center of your boat stake located by a minimal of a 50-cent piece, where we marked it 4 years ago with the survey company. They came out 4 years ago when we marked them in November, and we flagged the whole lake, and he came back and GPS marked every single flag, so we know exactly where every stake should be. That kind of took place of the old handheld little GPS that would get me within 10 to 15 feet, and then I had to try to figure with a tape measure from there where we were accurate. So this took the guesswork out of it. It's working quite well. We're able to find people's boat stakes more accurately, and they can maintain them that way. So that's really made this boat stake debacle, finding the stakes much easier and keeps them better located. So any questions other than that? That's about the only three things I really wanted to bring up, but if you got something, shoot. Yes?
Do you ever ask neighbors, or do neighbors come in and turn someone in to get you to come out to a site that has not been taken care of? Is that not a quicker way rather than you driving around the park?
Well, if you rely on neighbors, I still have to go check it anyway. So on that June 10th deadline, I'll spend time to start traveling the park, and I go up and down every road. I don't walk each individual site. If it's something, if I can see from the road, then we go ahead and I stop and do a better check. But yes, if a neighbor wants to turn somebody in, they can stop by, leave a note on my door that says, please look at this site because it looks bad. If you come into my office and tell me so, I'm not going to tell your neighbor that you turned them in, because that's none of the neighbor's problem. I will not narc on a neighbor. It might be your best friend. Oh, I thought I was. I thought my voice was loud enough.
Was your best
But so I'm not going to turn you into your neighbor and say, hey, guess who just turned you in for not cleaning your lot? It's not going to happen. I've had several people ask me, well, did my neighbor tell me? I said, I have no idea who your neighbor is. I don't care who your neighbor is. I got a call, it was dirty, I looked, it is. So now we got to take action on it. So yes, but the bad thing is we no longer go in and clean the site for them. We used to do that. We don't do that anymore because that turned into a bad issue. So now you may have to look at that site dirty if they chose not to clean it and just get fined every 2 weeks for not doing it.
Last but not least, our CFO. Kimberly, come on up.
Well, I will just add to that, as we mention at every board meeting, and I also add in all of my finance articles, Sandy Pines and Lake Monterey Golf Course is blessed to be in the financial position we are now. I did bring up at the board meeting last night, we looked at the budget for the next year and wanted to point out that Sandy Pines, looking back over the years, according to our bylaws, we stick to the CPI index for our increases from year to year on our operational dues. Sandy Pines has not had an increase to our operational dues since 1983. In some of those past years, our CPI, the Consumer's Price Index within the Midwest region, did not have any change, and Pines therefore had no increase to the operational dues in those years. I also looked at the percentage that our operational dues covers within the operational expenses within the park. It is under 50%. So our operational dues covered by the membership greatly supports just under 50% of our park's operations. The other 50%, if you have heard us mention different profit centers or revenue streams within the park, that's what maintains the rest of those operational expenses. Sandy Pines is a not-for-profit organization and is focused on preparing and maintaining a balanced budget, and that's our focus. Last night when we brought to the board the $1.5 million transfer up to, and that's if we need that, up to $1.5 million transfer, is to support the building as a means within the park to replace one of our previous assets, and also to respond to the calls of our emergency departments within the area, not just Salem Township. It was also Allegan County State of Emergency that came to us and also asked us to look at what we can do to better mitigate their calling and our needs. I'm sitting here today actually thinking of 3 years ago. It was my first summer here. I had gone back home and bunkered down in my basement with my 5 children. And there was a tornado that came through here. I turned on Wood TV, News 8, and on the news I heard, there's a tornado, it is heading for Sandy Pines. It was my first year here, and my heart sunk. And we were blessed that Sandy Pines was saved. The next morning, driving through Granville, my neighboring towns of Granville, Byron Center, and seeing the devastation and everything that occurred, Sandy Pines was blessed that day and still is today. Sandy Pines remains in that financial strong state, and our focus is to maintain a cash reserve of 180 days. With this reserve we've looked at, we will still be within that realms. It'll be a little bit to keep up to that. Our accountants who review our financials every year look at our cash and day in reserves, and after this transfer we'll be just under that. But in the foresight, we will be picking that up very quickly. So that is our focus and continues to be. The golf course as well, with Gary's management and work together, is also very successful. Both financial statements for both the park and the golf course are doing well this year, and I'm blessed to be here to serve the park and have the oversight and welcome all the contributions from the members and our board and staff. So thank you.
Kim. So you've heard from pretty much everybody, and you can see that we have a staff that's dedicated to the park, dedicated to you as members, and I am very pleased to leave the park in their hands. God has really worked in this place. Excuse me. It's been good. It's been good, and he loves this place, and I know he'll bless you going forward. Thank you.
Well, that covers everything that we would like to share with you on this day. And just a reminder, it was mentioned that on August 31, we're going to have a reception for June at the Pavilion, and so put that on your calendar. It'll be in the morning of the 31st. So you want to come for that. And again, on behalf of the board, and Jane, want to thank you for coming this morning and listening. I think you probably learned and understand that you have a lot to be proud of. The way in which we are organized as a park. I know that sometimes as individuals, we may not agree with the decisions that are made by the board, but that's the structure we have, and it's very important that we continue to that if we want to have a harmonious operation that goes into the future. And as Gene has indicated, he's going to leave this park in probably the best condition it's ever been in. So that's a real tribute to Gene and also to our staff. They are very efficient, and it's because of the work that they have done, we are in this position, and we can do things like the FEMA. We can make plans for crossing from phase 3 to 6, and also to have plans for another pool in phase 2, as well as to begin to plan to replace the indoor pool. You have to understand that it costs an awful lot of money to do all that stuff, and we're in a position to move in that direction. So thank you for coming this morning. We really appreciate it.